All for rainbow.
All for
rainbow.
All for rainbow.
All for rainbow.
rainbow.
All for rainbow.
Welcome to All for Rainbow podcast. This time is 12th episode, and we are going to talk about queer characters in movies and TV shows, and focusing on Shira and the Princess of Power. And with me today, I have Ela and Verity. Hello, hey.
Hello.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm very well. I'm doing okay. General anxiety is always there, sort of underlying everything, but otherwise I'm okay. Ella?
Yeah, I'm great too. It's been a nice sunny day today, so I enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, the sun is wonderful, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's so
really
warm
outside.
as well. It's so warm.
Maybe I can start with a little intro and about Shira. What is it about? And for those who are listening and haven't watched Shira before, here will be some spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers and you want to watch Shira, go watch Shira and come back later. And if you did,
Go binge 5 seasons.
yes,
Just pause now and go and watch Shira.
yeah,
Okay. So now
Or-
anyone watching from here on has just binged 5 seasons of Shira.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Right.
We're on the same page.
So it says that it started in 2018 and the 5th season was released in 2020. And Shira and the Princess of Power is a reboot of 1985 TV show. And it follows Adora, the main character, on a journey with her group of magical princesses against evil Lord Hordak and his horde who wants to conquer their planet. Series was developed by Noel Stevenson, and yes, maybe I can. Do you have something to add, or what are your what were your first thoughts about the TV show?
I actually watched it just recently. I had the 5 seasons binge during this last quarantine because me and my sister needed something cheerful, and we started rewatching cartoons from our childhood, and then we found this one. So it was I really loved it. It was the right the pick me up cheerful thing that we needed during the quarantine.
Yeah. What was the question?
What were your first thoughts about the TV show?
I watched the original show when I was a kid, and because it's a spin-off of He-Man, right? And I watched He-Man, and then I watched She-Ra as well. And so I was quite excited when I heard they were making a new She-Ra. And especially since when they announced it, they released a picture of She-Ra in her new incarnation, and it was enormously controversial because 40-year-old men felt that she wasn't sexy enough because she had been sexy in the original, and we all know that what's most important about role models for small girls is that the women are sexy, and just by being controversial and upsetting sort of man babies on the internet, that had me extra excited for it. I didn't even think her costume looks very good. I was like, whatever, I don't know, that's fine, but I don't care either. But I was excited that they had this kind of anti-feminist backlash because I like feminism, I guess. So I was very excited, and I enjoyed it. I thought the first season was good. It was it has that kind of, it feels like it's not like Steven Universe, but I feel like it's that genre of like cute queer kid stuff that has a lot of women in it. And so I was like, yes, this is actually a genre that I'm craving now, because Steven's over as well. I guess Steven wasn't over yet, but it was coming to an end. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good, especially how they
Sorry.
adapted it. Sorry, yeah, no, especially how they adapted it, because it was a very silly sort of superhero show in the original, and it's still silly, but like, it's more self-aware, I think, given that it's the kind of show where people are named after like the stuff they do, like Bow
Yeah.
and Glimmer. Yeah. Sorry, Ella.
No, that's actually what I was meaning to ask you. Like, if you enjoyed the original, do you remember like what your thoughts were about the original as a child?
I think I was very uncritical as a child, and I loved everything that I watched. I've always been a lover of television, and when I was a kid, I was just completely like, I loved everything, and I watched everything, and yeah, I was uncritical of everything. And I definitely enjoyed it as a kid, and like, and watching this new version, as it was like they were like revealing slowly that slowly, that's a very Slovenian thing to say. They were sort of gradually revealing that that Adora is like an orphan baby from another place, and I was like, I know where she's from. I watched the original. But yeah.
Nice. I was really curious. I didn't watch the original show, but I went to search for pictures how characters looked in the original and how they look now, and it reminded me of those TV shows when like the body type of a person is the same, but they just change costumes and maybe some color of hair and the length of hair, and
Yeah.
all is the same.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Barbie.
Yeah, they it's funny now to look back on that, because I think over the last decade that cartoons just, I mean, they're just better. And the standards that we had in those days were very simply like, men should be big and buff and women should be skinny and dainty, and we just don't have that anymore. And I think the kids growing up now, one of the reasons I still watch children's television at the ripe old age of 34 is I have two young nephews, and there is, so like, some stuff like I enjoy Shira in its own right, but often I'll be watching this stuff like, I can show this to the kids and this is going to be great for the kids. That's why I've watched so much My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because when they were very small, I was like, boys, we have to sit down and watch this girls' show. It's just so you're not like prejudiced misogynists. I want you to understand girly stuff is cool too. And so we would enjoy My Little Pony together. And yeah, and I love, like, it's very exciting when you have kids to show this stuff to that we never had when we were kids, and it's, you know, body positive and incredibly diverse, and I think that's really, it's really exciting, and it just makes me feel like I'm feeding the children, like it's like giving them their vegetables, like here's something healthy for you to consume, you know.
Yeah. Do you maybe have like the favorite scene from the TV show that you enjoyed very much?
I mean, this is totally cheating, but for me, oh, no, this is too big of a cheat. But like, you know, the theme song. There's a version. There's a cover of the theme song by the actress who plays Katra, and the arrangement is like cool and dark and slow, to make it like Katra's version, and it's so good. It's so good. I listened to that on repeat for like 3 weeks when it came out. So good. So that's cheating, but I said it.
It's really funny because the actress, I think she's in a band or something. Because I was listening to some Spotify just recently and I really liked the song that the algorithm put it out for me. So I Googled the band and then I checked the Wikipedia page of the singer and then it said like Katra in Shira. And I was like, whoa, mind blown.
Yeah. And Mamista is from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, right? She's I don't know if you watch Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. She's the neighbor, the depressed one. What's her name? Oh God. I don't know what her name is, but the sort of depressed neighbor. She sounds exactly the same. She plays the exact same character in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Like it's just Mamista. It's that like same energy. Yeah.
I love this scene, the tiny scene that's like just in the last episode, the one that's like the flash forward one. I don't know if you remember, it was really short, but it was like, I think it was Adora imagining how the future will be.
Yes.
They were all like really more adult looking. It was like, again, another glow up for the characters, like they do it before through many seasons. I really love that scene. It was like showing them all grown up and how they will be all right.
Yeah, I wish I want to see that. I want them to do another episode where it's just them hanging out, being happy, like, and there's no problems and everything's fine, and they all have nice haircuts and clothes.
Yeah. That could be, that tiny scene could be like an entire episode, and that would be the perfect feel-good episode.
Yeah. Maya, do you have a favorite?
I really liked like it was also short scene, but when Adora went to Glimmer's room and they had this bed in the air and Adora was having trouble climbing up. So this was one of my favorite scenes, but mostly because I really like draw rooms and how they would look like for me, and have this fantasy to have a bed somewhere in the middle of the room, in the like upper part. What about the costumes? There are a lot of like diverse costumes characters have.
Yeah, that reminds me of a favorite scene. I think it's in season 2 or something where they're all camping out somewhere because they're trying to like storm a castle or something to take over, rescue some people or something, and everyone keeps imagining their own version of how things would go. And when Bo imagines how he thinks things are going to go, everyone is wearing their costumes from the 80s version of Shira. And it's hilarious and adorable. In the original, it was very much like everyone's wearing a superhero costume instead of just clothes. I mean, I guess it feels a little bit like that in the new version too. Like, what the fuck is Bo wearing? What the fuck is Bo wearing? I don't know what that is. I don't know why does he have a heart on his chest? What's it for? What is it? And on his boots? Like, is it an insignia? You'd think his name was like Heart Man or something. What is that?
Yeah, that's true. I also thought that it will have like a bigger meaning of the hearts represented.
Yeah, it's just from the original show because he had it. Yeah, it's cute. I'm perfectly happy with it. It's just funny.
I love a crop top for him though. Like it's different than the usually you have the revealing clothes reserved for the female characters, but here he is wearing a crop top.
Hmm. And actually, one of Bo's dads, he dresses the same way that Bo dressed in the 80s cartoon. Like, it's the exact same outfit, and it's like he has the little mustache as well. Like, same like haircut and mustache and clothes, except he's black. Like, that's the only difference. Like, otherwise, that's just they took the original Bo and they made him the new Bo's dad. That's
Nice.
fun. That's fun.
I also remembered now when they all go to a ballroom of, where Frosta is throwing this party for princesses. And first, Bo has these clothes really different from what he usually wears, and then he rips them, and he again has this crop. This was also nice to see.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme, I think, that Bo just has to have his belly out, which is very nice. Yeah, I'm hoping that fashion will come back. I think men should wear crop tops more often.
Verity, you mentioned also Bo's dads, and there are also other queer characters like Adora and Katra, and I didn't notice at first, but I saw that Scorpia also has two mothers, but they are just shown in one picture in her room. And Double Trouble, and Netosa, and Spinnerella, yes. What do you think about like queer representation in this TV show?
About representation, it's lovely. It's very I mean, it's what you want for kids, really, I think, to watch. Like, there's no homophobia, there's no transphobia, and there's no identity politics, and there's no reason ever for anyone to come out. And I think it's really lovely. I feel like there's not much to say about it for the most part. Like, sort of anyone could be. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's, to my mind, it feels very bisexual in that, like, I think a lot of people now headcanon like Shira or Adora and Katra as lesbians because they're sort of the OTP. They're the only ones for one another. But to my mind, while watching it, it was completely ambiguous as to whether they were bisexual or whatever. And that's how all the characters felt. I felt that way about Steven Universe as well, which is really nice to just have that feeling of openness. There's not much to criticize for the most. Not that you're asking me to criticize, but like, because the only thing, obviously, I think the reason you asked me on the podcast is because I made a video about Double Trouble. Because Double Trouble is the only thing where you can really label someone explicitly, because Double Trouble is very distinctly non-binary, and it's baked into the character, their non-binariness, because of their pronouns, but also sort of their nature and how their sort of gender expression as well, which proves to be just a bit tricky, because that suddenly becomes the only sort of explicit representation of a very particular group. Like, everyone else is very ambiguous and easy to sort of say, oh, I don't know, they could be with anyone. I don't know. I feel like Glimmer and Bow are probably bisexual. I don't know, I just think everyone's bisexual. But I think probably the writers were like very, like, in their minds, I don't know, because they've said some things about it, and I'm not sure if they said it specifically about Adora and Katra, but I can see how to their minds Shira and Katra might be lesbians, because they would want that representation for themselves. But yeah, what was I talking about? Double Trouble. yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I've said a lot about Double Trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah, I find Double Trouble disappointing, but like I also love Double Trouble. I just like, what if like Glimmer had been non-binary, then it would just like, that would be such a wonderful way to like introduce a main non-binary character into a show. But to do it as sort of this like double crossing, double agent, deceptive lizard person is not like the best. I mean, it's not the worst either. Like, it could have been way, way worse. But it did make me think, when I first saw Double Trouble, I wasn't sure if this was like, I was like, did they like hate? Because in my mind, I was like, either this is like, they're trying to demonize like trans women or like feminine men or something. Because I hadn't heard anything about Double Trouble before I saw the character in the show. And my first thought was like, oh, wow, okay, here's someone like me, and they're clearly evil. So that's the thing. And I think within LGBT politics, there's a lot like turf perspectives tend to come more often from like lesbian separatists, for instance. And my first thought was, and I don't know if this is unfair of me and prejudiced of me, but I thought, oh fuck, is this Noel Stevenson like a turfy, separatist or something? And I'm very glad that they're not. and now that they
came out,
they use
right?
any pronouns. Yeah, they've come out as non-binary now, which is cool. But yeah, so that's my feelings. Those are some of my feelings abbreviated.
What do you? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I wanted to ask you, Ela, what are your thoughts? So you can.
Just like when Verity was speaking about how they wrote the representation for themselves, like in a way, the creators, like you mentioned something about that. I just thought about how Shira would look like if like the creator that came out now themselves like wrote Shira now, like if it would be any different. That was just like a thought that now I had, like if that probably would change, because I know I listened to a few of the interviews and like recent interviews after they came out, and they were saying stuff about how they felt really uncomfortable, feeling like they had to present feminine because it's Shira and the Princesses of Power, like while promoting the show, and that was something that they struggled with, like during the course this show ran. So like it would be interesting, I think. Like this becomes like the whole discourse about how queer writers create queer characters, but like that's just that.
Yeah. And I read an interview with Noel Stevenson where they were saying that when they had conceived like Shira and Katra's romance, like it was in the show from the beginning, but they needed approval from Netflix to do it. So it wasn't until they got to season 5 when Noel had to sort of go in and pitch it and say, okay. And I think it helped that there was already like a huge LGBT following by that point. So they got to say, okay, like this is what we want to do. It makes sense for the show. We have a lot of support from the fandom with this. Can we please do this? And apparently Netflix was just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. That must have been very scary. I'm reading that, I actually got teary-eyed because that kind of stuff is still groundbreaking at the moment, and it's the first time meetings like that are happening in sort of television studios where the big bosses are just saying, yeah, go for it. We're not going to censor that. And yeah, I mean, because really, Shira isn't. You can have a lot of background characters be more explicitly LGBT. But when it comes to Glimmer and Bow and Shira and Adora, it was very ambiguous up until that last moment, if any of them were part of the community, as it were.
Yeah, this was for me. I think when I started watching it, I thought that maybe some hints will happen earlier, and not just in like everything in the last episode. Also, for Glimmer and Bow, I picture them more as really like best friends, and was surprised at the end that they are also together.
Well, yeah, but that was ambiguous too, though, right? Because when
Yeah.
they said "I love you," and then he kissed her on the forehead, and like that was as far as it went. I think I feel like they did that on purpose because I think they knew that some fans would want them to be a couple and some wouldn't. So I think they've made it adequately ambiguous that if you want them to be a couple, then they are, and if you don't, then they're not. Then they're just best
Okay.
gay friends. They're gay lesbian solidarity, if you want.
I actually love that moment from like another point of view, because usually it's the queer couple that gets this ambiguous, maybe they are, maybe they're just friends, and like the main straight couple gets the true love's kiss saves the world, but here they
Yeah.
like reversed it. So I loved it from this point of view because they actually switched it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know it was coming, the kiss. I hadn't read about it anywhere, and I was just I was sitting there. I binged the whole of season 5 in like 2 days, and I was sitting there going, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And I really wasn't sure up until that very last moment. And yeah, it was amazing. It's really lovely.
I also recently read some comments about Scorpia and Perfuma, that some
Yes.
fans, I don't know, I forgot a bit if at the end they are also together somehow, or is this just like fans shipping them together? What do you think?
I think it's pretty explicit that there's like flirtation happening and they have a crush on each other. I think they don't end up explicitly as a couple, but because it's not as important to the plot. But I think the writers very much wanted us to think that Perfuma and Scorpia were going to be a couple. I read that Perfuma, on the point of representation, apparently the artist who designed the character, they said on Tumblr, or they had to have a Tumblr. They said on Tumblr that when they designed Perfuma, in their mind, Perfuma was a trans woman. And you can Perfuma's taller than everyone else, so you can totally see it. And they said that had they known that would be possible to portray Perfuma that way at all, they would have said something, but they didn't. So like it never was implied or suggested or made canon in any way, because like when they started season 1, there was just no idea that was going to be something that was possible for them to do. So yeah, there's all these little bits of information around the internet where different creators who worked on the show have said, I think Bo's bisexual. Oh well, I tried to make Perfuma trans and stuff like that. It's interesting. It's that metatextual experience of like having the author. It's kind of like J.K. Rowling and Dumbledore, I guess, being like after the fact, being like, oh yeah, he was gay all along, couldn't you tell? But it's more wholesome, I think, because it's like queer creators who are just like, yeah, to my mind, this is what they were for sure, and that's much more believable to me than J.K. Rowling thinking Dumbledore was gay all along.
Is there like, do you think that there is ideal queer character, or what do you think the ideal queer character would look like?
A mess, in my opinion. I mean, for me personally, I prefer characters who are messy as fuck and imperfect and complicated. Which I guess all of the characters in Shira could be described that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think no one is really perfect and everyone's a little bit messed up, right? No
Yeah,
one
like-
is representation for the sake of representation.
Like not one-dimensional. That would be the
Yeah.
first, like the first on the checklist, which they aren't. Like none of the characters. I mean, at least the main ones, the ones that are fleshed out because of the time, they get pretty fleshed out. Like no one is black or white.
Yeah, I don't think there is an ideal queer character. I think the goal really is just to have many queer characters and have them be as diverse as possible. And I don't just mean that in the sense of sort of like things like orientation and race and body type, but also just personality type. A lot of different. Sometimes you. I mean, I love evil bisexuals. I love them. I love evil bisexuals on TV and in film. And like, unfortunately, in cinema and TV history, evil bisexuals sort of were the norm. So it has a problematic history, but they're great. And I think it would be great to be at a point where we can have like evil trans characters without it being problematic because we're scared about representation. It's so sad that we can't just have good stories without having to have anxiety about whether or not the character is good enough. And yeah, I hate representation. Well, I just don't really enjoy representation that's supposed to be respectable, I guess. I feel that way about Supergirl. There's a trans character in Supergirl, and she's very sort of cookie cutter, just sort of nice trans girl, and it's just boring. And I appreciate that it's good for people to see like that kind of nice two-dimensional trans character so they can understand like this is how you be nice to a trans person. But she's also boring. And that's boring to watch.
Yeah, I have maybe this idea for queer characters. There's a lot of pressure how they should be portrayed, and then you have characters, heterosexual characters who are like very diverse, but people don't really like put attention so much to them as how they are portrayed, like in a way as queer characters. And I see like a lot, like I recently also was reading about aromantic characters and how it affects aromantic people, and people really like talk after about it, how some portrayals of characters influence their lives, or in that sense.
Yeah. I think often LGBT characters or sort of minority characters often their minority status is symbolic. So you get like a fat character and the fat character will represent like greed or laziness or something. So like their fatness they're not just a fat person, they're a gross person or whatever. And with an aromantic or asexual person, that might be like, I think infantilizing. It might symbolize that they're sort of childlike or innocent, or maybe that they're creepy in some way or something like that. And speaking for bisexual representation, often bisexuality has represented sort of that double-sided, like being a double agent, being a liar, being a cheater, and also sort of straddling straddling two worlds or being sort of like counterculture, being outside of society, which is something that I see in Double Trouble as well. This, like, it's very obvious that Double Trouble being non-binary is like part of that is a symbol for the fact that they are a double agent and you never know whose team they're on. They literally they start on like Hordak's team, they move to the good side, then they end up on Horde Prime's whatever his name is, his team, but then he leaves because he gets bored, or they leave because they get bored, and that's it. And then I guess at the end they're on the good side again. Yeah. I don't know. And that's it for their characterization. They don't have any friends or loved ones.
Is there like a difference when with characters you see on TV shows and films and the ones from books?
That kind of symbolic sort of representation. I think TV and it's a very visual medium, so I think you're more likely to have a character sort of as sort of a shorthand for understanding their characterization. I think it's very easy for them to sort of portray something that is visually symbolic. So like so like being fat or something is something that can very quickly convey information in film, and it could do so in literature as well, but I think in literature you have more space and time to flesh out a character, and I think it's a problem with TV and film that, like, the new movie The Witches, based on the Roald Dahl book, to make the witches monstrous, they gave all the witches only 3 fingers instead of 5. And a lot of people are really upset about that because there is a condition people are born with where they only have 3 fingers, or there's probably various conditions where people only have 3 fingers, and a lot of children just grow up with a 3-fingered hand. And now all their classmates are watching a movie where that is a symbol of being an evil monster who like eats children or whatever, or kills children, and that's very upsetting for those children. So they've tried, and this is just generally a problem. It's like, well, we portray like monsters are ugly, right? So if you're considered non-pretty or unacceptably, if you're visually, if you're just ugly in some way, culturally you're considered to be ugly in some way, then that is, you are only going to see yourself represented as the bad guy. You're never going to be, or very rarely going to be, the hero of any story. I don't think there's any fat Disney princesses, and there's definitely no queer Disney princesses. For sure, it feels like when characters are sort of queer coded, implied to be queer in some way in Disney films, they tend to be the villain. I think that things are changing slowly in Disney films now. I mean, they're trying to get woke a tiny step at a time, just enough to get your money, but not enough to upset like their right-wing viewers.
100 Million Moms, or what's this American group that's
yeah.
But like, that's so great about Shira, right? Because it uses that visual thing, but it turns it around. So you have characters of many body types, even ones that are usually not considered like heteronormatively beautiful, like Scorpia. Like, we all love Scorpia. I think Scorpia is coded in a way that the viewer feels like she's precious and she must be protected, but like, her body type is not something that is usually considered traditionally beautiful for a woman, or like many other characters. So I think that's why Shira feels so great to so many queer people, because it turns that trope around.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And that's why Double Trouble bugs me, because those tropes are turned around in everyone. And you get to have like cute fat people and stuff like that, and then you get Double Trouble, who is very like, to me, Double Trouble reads as the voice actor, and as myself, we were assigned male at birth, and we're non-binary, so we're sort of like assigned male, trans, feminine, and I think Double Trouble feels like sort of trans feminine character, and yeah, and it's just so weird and unfortunate. And I'm sure there wasn't at this point. I don't think there was any malice on the part of the creators when they designed Double Trouble that way. But it does, yeah, it's disappointing in the context of such a great show being so good and making such a great effort with representation and doing it so well in such a fun way that it's not condescending and not two-dimensional or one-dimensional or whatever. Yeah.
Do you have like your favorite queer character from films and TV shows?
In Star Trek in the 90s, there was a character in Star Trek Deep Space Nine called Jadzia Dax, and she was an alien who used to be a man, and before that she was a woman, and before that she was a man, and so on and so forth for like 9 generations. And because her life has like transcended gender, she's also explicitly portrayed as bisexual. And in regards to transness, though, I don't think they were making any effort to be like good representation, but because she's such a great character, and because she just is kind of trans. Trans people love her. And she's just turned out, and the actress has said now, 25 years later, she's like, she now gets contacted all the time by trans people saying like, oh my god, your character like inspired me to transition. It's so wonderful, and she's really proud to have been part of that. And I think back at the time, it was one of those sort of first gay on-screen kisses on television. So it was like 96 or something. Yeah, so she's proven over the like almost 3 decades to have been like this wonderful representation, which also just was not trying to be good representation. She was just a crazy, awesome character, and I love that. I also really like John Constantine from Legends of Tomorrow. He's like an alcoholic bisexual wizard.
He's a mess.
He's a mess, and I love it. Like, it's so good because I'm also an alcoholic bisexual wizard. Like it's so refreshing. It's just so refreshing to see a character get to be like a total mess like that. It just feels so real. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, you had like two great bisexual characters, and now I feel like a bad bisexual because I don't think I'm trying to remember, but I think like my all-time favorite is Cosima from Orphan Black. I don't know if you know it, but
yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's a lesbian. So now I feel
her
like
girlfriend's
a bad bisexual. Yeah, though her girlfriend is a badass and bisexual. But like I probably just love that show so much, and she's the main queer character. She's like this. She's a clone, like it's a show about clones. Spoiler. And she's one of the clones who is researching her own genes, so her own biology and the way she and her other clones work. So I kind of love that whole concept of a character, like she's a scientist, but her own research subject is like herself. She also has like one of her other clones is in the end a trans man. So it's really great how they included queer characters in this whole world. It's interesting. It raises up this interesting question about like predetermined sexuality and gender, or something you're born with. I really like the way they handled the queer characters in the show generally.
I liked from Euphoria TV show, Jules. I really like her character, and I would also maybe consider her somewhere like a somewhat mess, if you can say this, because she's a trans teenager and goes into different relationships and not relationships, and despite the personality, I really like her choice of clothes. So
The glitter.
yeah, and the colors and different color of the hair. And I forgot the English word. Those just small parts of hair you put in your hair.
Like ponytails or something?
Like streaks of color?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the word.
Oh, like, yeah.
Like,
I don't know what you call it, because they're not highlights, are they? They're like,
Yeah.
colorful highlights. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Do you maybe have anything more to add to Shira, the TV show, or should I continue with my super funny questions?
I would
I have
like
one
to. Sorry.
Go on. There you go.
Just honorable mention of Swiftwind. I think we forgot the rainbow unicorn
Mhm.
in the queer show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of loved this. I don't know, it felt like a additional treat to the queer audience. I don't know if it's in the original too. I don't
Yeah, he
know.
is.
He is. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah. You should try watching like an episode of the original just because it's so weird now. Like to go back now and watch it is just bizarre. And pick like a random episode in the middle. Don't watch the first one because it's all about her brother, He-Man.
Okay.
Which is apparently they're doing a He-Man show now on Netflix, but I think it's not going to be shared with Shira's universe. But like, I want it to be so bad. I want her to come and visit He-Man, but I don't think it's going to be. One thought that I have on that I'm not quite sure how to process about Shira is I feel like the relationships, like when people are couples, the relationships tend to be kind of horrible. Like I feel like I used to associate this with like straight couples on TV, but like everyone kind of hates each other. Like I feel like Natossa and Spinnerella will just like complain all the time. Like they don't have a very loving relationship. They're like they just kept. I remember them complaining about how annoying one another was, kind of thing. And like Mr. hates Seahawk, but they are a couple, I guess. And like, why is she with him? She doesn't like him. I don't get it. And then like with Adora and Katra, like I really like them and I like how it ended up. But she kept being like, "You idiot," and I'm like, "Don't call Adora an idiot, Katra. Please stop calling her. This is not healthy." It just bugs me, and I don't like. I guess it must be representative in some way of the writer's own perspectives on relationships, but I don't get it personally because if my partner was calling me an idiot all the time, I'd be like, "Fuck off." Why are you like if you don't like me, if you're just complaining about me all the time, maybe we shouldn't be a couple. But that's how but I'm just a very sensitive person. I'm a delicate flower.
Yeah, but maybe like because usually like especially with girls I think that happens like if in kindergarten a boy is like really making fun of a girl, usually a thing that often happens is like the teacher says, yeah, he's only doing that because he likes you. Maybe that's like a valid concern for a kids show, like to even further along this
it's topical.
Yeah.
The children's very relatable. Yeah, I don't know. I just wish that some of the couples would have just didn't have that because it feels like they just seem to think that all couples have to have that bit where you a little bit don't like each other, and it
But Bow
feels
and
weird.
Glimmer, do they do that? Like,
But
I
they're
know
not a
that.
couple.
Yeah, of course
And
they are. In the end, it's not.
yeah, I mean, like maybe they got together in the last 10 minutes, but it's unclear, you know. So I feel like anyone who's established as a couple has a weird relationship, I think, where they kind of don't like each other, but I guess they love each other.
Yeah, maybe it's also, it has something to do with, they all seem that they are really in a relationship really long, so maybe sometimes couples who are really long together, they don't care anymore if they are fighting or not so much.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not for me. It just reminds me of those jokes, you know how straight people will be like, oh yeah, my wife, I hate her, and then everyone laughs, and it's like, that's not funny. And I associate that weird like humor that's associated with like not really liking your partner but loving them. I associate that with sort of straight culture, so it surprised me. But yeah, I don't have better commentary on it than that. It just feels weird to me. I just think my mister should dump Seahawk, and like Seahawk can like date like Seahawk can date Bo polyamorously, right? Or something. Because my mister's not happy with Seahawk. I don't know who my mister would be happy with. Possibly Shira. I think my mister wants to date Shira. I think. Not
I think they would
Adora.
argue all the time. Shira, not Adora.
Yeah, but Shira, right? I think I got the impression my mister has a thing for like 7 foot tall, muscly women, but don't we all?
Scorpio?
Oh yeah, that's an option too. Yeah.
No, I think Mermista would destroy Scorpia. Scorpia is way too nice for Mermista. Like, she's way too kind.
Yeah. That's true.
But what about Frosta? Is Frosta really like so much younger than the rest of the team members?
I feel like she's supposed to be like 11 or something. I think she said, and I get the feeling, to my mind, everyone is like 17, 18, and then Frosta's like 11. I don't know if I'm right about that, but that's
that's the way I saw it too. Because there was like a scene or an episode when the father of Glimmer was like with them, and he was discussing something with Frosta, and he was having a hard time relating to her. Like, he was trying to be the cool dad or something, and it was specifically to Frosta, not to everyone else. So, like, she was the child of the group.
I also like in Shira TV show that a lot of fighting and this decision making plans are for teenagers, and adults are not playing so important roles, and it was really like it reminded me of of the past and how people were more they were faster growing, I would say, maybe with all, like, for example, when with kingdoms and children had to like be in charge of the whole city.
Imagine if like teenagers ran our government. I feel like that would be.
There is a horrible TV show about that, right?
Is it?
I think there is.
It's Shira.
No. It's much more straight. I don't know how to describe it otherwise. I think it's the society. I think it's on Netflix also. Like
Well,
I did not watch it, but I think that's the premise, like the teenagers ruling the government or something.
well, just thinking about it just now, I'm like, I feel like judging by the politics of like modern teenagers, like compare that to Janis Janša and Donald Trump, and like
Yeah.
I think I would prefer teenagers. I think Shira is a good example by which we should govern ourselves. I'm up for it.
Gen Z save us all.
Yeah, they will. They're the future. They'll decide what to do with us when we're old and we're in old people's homes.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how old you two are. I'm older than you, I guess. I'll be in an old people's home soon enough.
If global warming does not take us first.
Yeah, well, I
I
think
think
global warming will just change things, and we won't all die, but things will be terrible. But we'll be
words
alive to
for water.
experience. We'll just be swimming. Like, the old people's home will be underwater, but otherwise, I think we'll be there and alive.
Okay. I have two more questions. One is, what would your name be if you were a character in Shira universe? Have you thought about it?
I've thought about it. My name, well, okay, I was gonna make a joke and say my name would be Triple Trouble or something, right? But doesn't that make you think about like Double Trouble? Why is Double Trouble named Double Trouble? Is everyone in Double Trouble's species and society, are they all named, are they like Single Trouble, Double Trouble, Triple Trouble, 99 Trouble, but a bitch ain't one? Like, how many troubles? Like, and then do they run out of troubles? I don't know. Is everyone's name like based on how much trouble they get into, how useful they are to society? It's fascinating. I want to know more about Double Trouble and where they come from. Anyway, yeah, that's my name.
Triple Trouble.
Triple Trouble.
I was thinking more in the lines of like Bow and Frosta, like they are, all of them are just, they do for some reason. So like recently in the quarantine, I would be granola, I think, because that's all I've been doing. I've been doing like every 2 days, I make another batch of granola with another like flavor. So yeah, that's what I would be. I would be granola, making and eating granola. Maybe I could have my own species too. That would be interesting. A planet, probably.
Very nice.
What would you be, Maya?
I would probably be. I didn't have anything creative, but yeah, I came up with Sleepy Weepy. So I would be, yeah. My superpowers would be putting people to sleep.
Nice.
The last question is, which fruit or vegetable would you like to be?
But are we a character that's like are we like a talking fruit and vegetable, or just the fruit and vegetable? Like I was also confused
Don't
about
be
this question because I
ridiculous,
was like,
Ella.
are we like
If
a
you could
character that is
transmutate.
also?
Well, I never got this question before. So you can choose. You can be like a fruit or vegetable that you like to eat, or the talking fruit or vegetable.
I'm still into the cartoons universe.
Yeah, it can be also, yeah.
Well, I would be a zucchini.
I would be a creepy talking talking potato, like the ones you make from like the potato. You know how you can make like the potato characters, like with sticks. And did you do that as a kid? No.
Yeah.
Like I would be that one, but it's alive.
Nice. I just remembered.
Maya's so like knowingly about it. Like when I was like, I was 16, Maya's like, I can see that. I can totally see that for you. Ella's a potato, absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, I got a lot of associations from the cartoons I watched as a child and in primary school with these creepy characters. Yeah, I won't go much into it because I would be two cherries holding together or with a green leaf.
Nice.
I can see that for you.
Yeah.
Very specific.
I imagine myself rolling in the wind, doing circles.
Very peaceful. Like Zen.
Cool. Then we came to the end of our episode. Do you maybe have something like your last words to our listeners?
Yeah, please, if I didn't sound too obnoxious and you could bear to hear more of me, please visit my YouTube channel, Verily Bitchy. My real name is Verity Ritchie, but my YouTube channel is called Verily Bitchy. It's a clever play on words. Please search for it and watch my videos. Thank you. Bye.
Yay.
Nice.
Were you guys gonna say goodbye or anything else?
I'm gonna say, please, universe, give us more diverse queer characters, please, and thank you. Goodbye.
Yes, clap to this. Bye, and all the rainbows.
All for rainbow.
All for rainbow.
All for rainbow.
All for rainbow.
All for rainbow.